My adolescence in the 1970s was a kind of motorway pile-up, and like any trauma, comes back to me only in flashes. Terrifying purple shirts and homemade flared trousers, vivid spurts of acute embarrassment as I hear my youthful self, cocky, ignorant, scared and courageous, attempt to navigate the course between uber geek to punky art student and beyond, falling into every trap along the way. I've asked an older colleague who knew me at the time what I was like, and he said simply, "You were an accident waiting to happen." I mean, I think this is, I don't want to embarrass it, I think this is a beautiful piece of description of what I'm sure we've all been through at exactly that same time in our lives, where we're aspirational. We know there's something out there, and our journey between where we are and where it is clumsy, is gauche, is full of pitfalls. And we look back and we think, oh God, was I really such a prat? But without doing that, you would never have stepped outside that Glaswegian box of safety and being the art teacher rather than the artist that you are.
Yeah, but it was a sort of, I mean, what I've missed out there is the fact that I became sort of obsessed with this idea of being an actor. And I don't know why, because my parents, we didn't go to the theatre, you know, apart from pantomime and stuff. We didn't go and see Chekhov, we didn't go to see Shakespeare. I went to the Citizens Theatre and saw people covered in blood and mascara and screaming at each other. I thought, oh, that looks great, I really want to be part of that. But I was frightened by them. They were quite sort of scary, and a lot of them were English, which was very frightening. But I left school when I was 17, and I was desperate to get into the theatre, and the only job I could get was with Scottish Opera. Scottish Opera was expanding at the time, and they just bought the Theatre Royal in Glasgow, and the only job, I was just desperate to be part of it, the only job I could get was, I was a wardrobe assistant, which was basically a dresser who had to pack up all these huge operatic costumes and carry them up and down.
Not quite what you were after.
It wasn't quite what I was after, and also I had to sort of, you know, hide from a lot of amorous members of the chorus who wanted some bleak nights in Aberdeen, sort of brightened up by this youthful chap. But what I was going to say was, I applied to drama school. That was all. I left school, and then I figured out where all the drama schools were. I applied, and it took great courage on my behalf to come down to London. I didn't get in.
Did you only apply in London?
Yeah.
They were the schools you wanted.
Yeah, so they said, forget it. It's over. This is not for you.
It was dangerous, wasn't it? I mean, not dangerous, but to be a Glaswegian male
to be a Glaswegian is dangerous. And not to live in Glasgow.
And to say what I want to do is something, something artistic, something you know, to be an actor. You know.
Well, it isn't. Everybody's up for it, but nobody knows how to help you. I mean, I always felt really sorry for my dad, because, you know, if I'd said, you know, I'd like to work in the pub, he'd have had in fact, he did. He had a word with someone down the pub, and they got me a job in another pub and blah, blah, blah. Or if I'd wanted to work in the ice cream, he'd do that. But if you say, you know, I want to be an actor, what's he going to do? He doesn't know anybody who can help you.
So you didn't get in. What happened?
I came back to Glasgow, and I just didn't know what to do. And somebody said, well, you should go to art school, because you've got all these drawings, you can do all this. I said, but the date's passed. No, I can't get to art school. And they said, phone your teacher. So I phoned my old teacher up, Pat Boyle was his name, and he said, I'll phone the art school. I said, I don't have the qualifications. Okay, you know, because I didn't get much in the way of qualifications. He spoke to the art school, and they looked at my stuff, and they said, yeah. Come here. And that was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Of course it was, I mean, this is when art schools were art schools and not pretending to be universities, and not undermining your entry requirements, but in those days you really could get into art school with a half-decent portfolio and a good line in bullshit, because you didn't need the A-levels, you didn't need to show that you towed the line. You just needed to show that you had some sort of...
I could do this. It would be crazy not to invite me. At 17 years old, it would be cruel and wrong to say this child can't do this.
And you went to the Glasgow School of Art, that beautiful Charles Rennie Mackintosh building that we've all visited as tourists, but very few of us have actually sat in the library as students, as you obviously have done. And just checking some of the alumni today. I mean, obviously, artists that we think of as the Glasgow School, both ancient and modern: Stephen Campbell, Stephen Conroy, Jim Lambie, Douglas Gordon, Jenny Saville, Adrian Wisniewski, 3 recent Turner Prize winners: Simon Starling, Richard Wright, and Martin Boyce. And then other alumni: Liz Lockhead and John Byrne, poets and playwrights; Pam Hogg, the fashion designer; Alistair Gray, the novelist; Robbie Coltrane, etc., etc. I mean, a brilliant, brilliant educational establishment. Just looking at those names, you think you couldn't have an output of that sort of talent if it was not geared to doing anything except encouraging and nurturing talent.
Yeah. But there was a kind of you know, you were aware of all that when you were there, but there was a kind of sense that it was that all of those people became what they became in spite of how they were taught. And that sounds bad. I don't mean it to sound bad, but what I mean is that somebody had to impose a kind of discipline, which was a fairly classical discipline of life drawing and stuff like that, onto all of this stuff to give it some sort of a shape. Otherwise it would just be a happening, you know, which would go nowhere. So yeah, but I think also, I mean, John Byrne, I think, is one of the great unsung geniuses of British art.
Tilda Swinton's dad.
Well, her former partner. Her former partner.
Her former partner?
John Byrne, yeah.
Ah, not her dad.
No, not her dad.
Oh, I've got that horribly wrong.
No. But he is an astonishing draftsman and painter and playwright. And he was part of a group of creative people who began to... they created the concept of Scotland that we walked into, i.e. the colourful, bright use of working class language, an industrial sensibility, an artistic sensibility, a connection to American blues, rock and roll, music. This sort of hadn't all been brought together before. And you see it all, I mean, you see it with Billy Connolly and people like that. But John is the person who pulls it all together and also can draw it and paint it. And he's an astounding talent.
Wow. And you...
and nobody's ever heard of him, I bet.
Well, no. He's not a household name, but he's a name. You were bitten by the music bug.
Yeah.
It was that sort of time, wasn't it?
It was that kind of time, which I'm sure, you know, you were right there as well. But basically, we all arrived at art school listening to Neil Young, and with long hair and sheepskin coats, and with fleas in our hair.
Just give us a period where you were at art school.
1976 to 1982.
Okay. Yeah.
Right, 76 to 80.
Yeah.
So we turned up as kind of proto hippies. Yeah. And then in the summer break, punk happened. Yeah, so we all came back with peroxide hair and leather trousers. Now, and desperate to play electric guitars and all that sort of stuff.
History, again, I mean, as with Springburn and Springdale or whatever they called it. Springburn, yeah. And Springdale, or whatever they called it.
I don't know where Springdale comes
from. It's okay. My accent's not getting through to you, but I'm from a different part of the Highlands, obviously. History is slightly confused as to whether your first band, or maybe it was your only band at art school, was either called the Dream Boys or the Bastards from Hell. Maybe you could actually clear this up for us, and for rock history.
Well, they were the same band, but the first name we had, which was infinitely better, was the Bastards from Hell. But that was kind of because at the time everybody was in a punk band and they were trying to think of the worst, most offensive name they could think of. So we thought, we'll call ourselves the Bastards from Hell, or the Bastards from Hell, because that's the most horrible group of people we could imagine people seeing. But then we rather fully, but we were doing it with our tongues in cheek, which of course was our downfall in the end. Because it's very difficult to be humorous in any way in rock music, apart from yourself.
Thank you. You were the singer, presumably. And
I was the singer, yeah, and then we came up with this stupid, because never think of it, it was the worst name for a band ever. But we thought, because we came from art school, and people would realise that we were steeped in, you know, German expressionist movies and Dr. Caligari, and we thought it was a reference to kind of nightmares and all of this kind of stuff. But no, it subsequently just became a name of a sub-Chippendales boy group. But we had a great, I mean, I loved it so much because it sort of brought together all the things I was interested in, which was like showing off, dressing up, acting, singing, creating a world, because you could make your own world with all these songs and stuff like that. But we were terrible. But we survived for quite a while, I'm sure, but we sort of lost, we got fed up. Everybody else got signed and got famous, and we didn't.
You had two illustrious collaborators, didn't you? Craig Ferguson, who now hosts The Late Late Show. How did that happen? He was what, the drummer?
He was the drummer. Well, Craig was, you know, he's now very, I can't believe, I go to America and turn on and he's on TV at night after David Letterman, speaking in his kind of mid-American sort of Glaswegian accent. And he's great. Craig's a fabulous kind of force of nature, and he's hilarious. I mean, he's just one of the funniest people I've ever met. But to show you how far he's come, he came from a place in Scotland called Cumbernauld, which is famed for being the location for Gregory's Girl. It was a new town. It was built, I don't know, in 1978 or something like that. People were shoveled in there from tenements into these concrete boxes. And there's nothing, it's a sort of concrete dump, which they created. But he came from there, and he worked in the post office. And he would occasionally take a trip into Glasgow on a Friday night to come to, there was a really cool place called the Rock Garden, where we used to go.
We used to have one here.
Yes, and we used to play gigs there and stuff. We had a drummer who was, we always had, you know what it's like with drummers, it's like really difficult getting a drummer who'll stay the course and hang around. One night we did a gig, and I happened to announce on stage that we were looking for a drummer. And afterwards, this guy, this kid came and said, "I'm a drummer. Would you audition me?" We'd have just taken anybody who would have said they were a drummer. They had a kit.
And a band.
And I was right, yeah. But we said, yeah, okay. So he agreed, and he came, and he was great. But this is how far he's come. Because he was from Cumbernauld, and we were from Glasgow, he described us as a Glasgow band. And so we were at a much higher plane than any of the bands he had played with who were from Cumbernauld.
I can see
so we were the real thing. We were from the metropolis. And he came and joined the band. I always remember he would come and be part of the whole thing and do all the parties and stuff like that and get really drunk and then have to go to the post office on a Saturday morning. And he always used to have in his pocket an emergency pound. It was so long ago. It was rolled up. It was rolled up emergency pound. So that if anything went wrong, you could get home. But of course, as the drink and the lifestyle took its hold, the emergency pound was consumed.
God, don't knock that emergency pound. I'm sure I had one somewhere. But the other member of the Bastards from Hell Stroke Dream Boys was a friend of yours and mine, Temple Clark, who's now a great storyboard artist who does storyboards for fabulous movies. The most recent one that he was telling me about was when he was doing the storyboard for Coriolanus with Ralph Fiennes.
Yes.
He was trying to storyboard out the fight scenes.
Yes.
But in the absence of anyone else, Ralph said, "I'm going to have to fight you, and you're going to have to draw it while I'm fighting you." So they were in a dance studio surrounded by mirrors, and Ralph Fiennes would get Temple in an arm lock or a headlock or something, and say, "That's a good one, draw that." And Temple would be looking in the mirror as Ralph Fiennes had him in a headlock. "Hold it still," he's saying, "hold it still." And he would draw that out. Anyway.
Yes. Temple was very, very gifted. Also, he was the only one of us that looked like a rock star.
Yeah, he still does, actually.
He was very handsome.
And I can never forgive him.
And he always used to get the girls.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we hated him for that.
Temple Clark sounds like a superhero as well.
It does. It's an extraordinary name, but it's from Edinburgh. So that was very different. But they also, I must just point out, there was another guy at art school called Ian McCaig, who I remember Ian used to draw elves and spaceships, and all this kind of sci-fi kind of stuff. And the tutors said to him, "You'll never get anywhere if you just sit around drawing spaceships all the time." And he became George Lucas's storyboard artist.
It sounds like there was just so much talent in that place at the time. Did any of you not get a job?
Well, I'm sure there are a few people who fell through the cracks, and you know, Muriel Gray, she was there as well.
Was she? Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.